5 days ago, on November 5th, the American people collectively got out and voted for who they think should deserve the 2024 presidential election victory. And Donald Trump won with a leading vote of 312 to Kamala Harris's 226. Donald Trump also won over the Senate with a majority Republican vote. So, what does this mean? I actually would like to stay away from that topic because I want to keep my channel void of any politics. I don't care who you voted for. You shouldn't care who I voted for. In my eyes, we are all equal underneath the guise that we are American citizens. And I am not here to talk about why Donald Trump won or why Kamala Harris lost or who I think should have won or who I think should have lost. I'm also not here to talk about what this means for the future of the United States because I personally not only don't care enough, but also don't know enough. And I think that people who aren't in this field of politics should be making comments on what they think is going to happen with the future of the United States. I'm making this video to just bring it to light how divided of a country we are, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but just for future reference, this channel will be void of any politics, and I want to keep it that way. And I really hope that this video doesn't bring any controversy because that's not the point of this video. Actually, I was talking to one of my friends 5 days ago as the election was taking place, and he was like, man, I really can't wait for your video to be made on this, like as a sarcastic joke. And I said, I'm actually not going to make a video on this election because I want to keep my channel away from politics. And he was like, yeah, okay, sure. But here we are. But I mean, it's not going to be, again, about the election. It's just going to be the results in between the people on social media because it's pretty worrisome. Also, a quick side note, I know my camera is like not giving me 60 frames a second. I honestly, oh my gosh, I honestly don't know what's going on with my camera. Focus. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Okay, I think we're back. I think I don't think we're gonna have 60 frames, but it's fine. I'll figure it out later. So after the presidential election on the days up until now, which is, like I said, 5 days later, I have seen so many different examples as to just people thinking that their lives are over because Trump won. I've seen so many different relationships, both in person and online, get completely demolished because people have different views and people just can't seem to agree to disagree to some things. I have seen and heard stories of people just moving out of their parents' house or people cutting off their brothers and sisters because one person voted for a different party than they did, or they just have different political views. And I'm here to say that is the wildest thing I've ever heard. Cutting off your own blood and cutting off your own like really good friends because they have a different political opinion than you is completely wild, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. The first thing there's a fly in my room, damn it. The first thing I like to talk about is the sheer spike in this odd trend with primarily left-leaning individuals recording videos on TikTok, freaking out, losing their shit, like losing their marbles. Like you've definitely seen the YYY video of a girl who was like shaking in her car and saying, "Do you really hate me that bad?" Like and then there's also this one person saying that she's going to wake up a slave and she's afraid to go to sleep. Yeah, that's kind of wild. I am a big proprietor of, free speech. You can have whatever your opinions are, you can choose to speak or not speak on them. But I just want to remind you that the president doesn't really control that much. And don't get me wrong, the president does control a lot in the United States of America, but it's not that much. And also, I'm just going to say this right now, I'm not going to be talking about anything else deeper than this. No politics, no religion, no nothing like that. Just for a quick little controversial meter, I think we're still at 0, so I'm gonna keep it right there. But the next thing I want to talk about is just the why we're so divided in what we think and how we feel toward this election. Also, I'm sorry my face is so white. I don't know what's going on with my camera. I really need to configure some settings, but let's get into the true divide and what I think is causing it. Now, I'm no therapist and I'm no political analyst. I'm no social media influencer, not yet, but what I truly believe is causing this divide is social media. I think that many TikTok videos, many Instagram posts, many YouTube videos, many just social media posts in general have instilled a type of underlying fear in both right-wingers, left-wingers, and centralists that if person A or person B gets elected, then they will get murdered. They will just all these terrible things that will happen if A and B happens. And I just want to remind you that 99.9% of those videos are telling lies, and they are not only trying to gather an audience so one political party can win or something in their favor can happen, but also just so they can get views. That's the whole idea behind clickbait, is like a Minecraft video saying, oh, I spent like 999 trillion years on a 1 block by 1 block Skyblock server, and I'm going to overthrow the government now. Like that's not how that works. That's not what's going on in that video. It is entirely clickbait just to get your attention and instill a sense in you that you will subscribe to their channel, click on more of their views, just so you can also get that underlying idea that that original video gave you reinforced through that kind of content, if that makes sense. Because all social media is just a game of numbers. It is a game of attention. It's a game of money. And people will do some pretty wild things for money, including instilling this terrible fear in you that no one should have over this election. And that's where this divide comes from, I believe. I think that many different people have just that much of a difference in views that it caused their entire TikTok feed to be different, and then they just go down this everlasting rabbit hole of political BS, and they eventually come to the conclusion that anyone who has a different opinion than me is a masochist, or not a masochist, a misogynist. Anyone who has a different opinion than me is just a weak liberal, or anyone that has a different opinion than me wants me to be dead, essentially, which is just not true. And I truly believe that if you have a very harsh fear over what happened with this election, I am very sorry. And I mean that. I'm not saying I'm sorry for you, like, oh, go cry in a corner. I am very sorry because you have probably subscribed to so many different TikTok channels or YouTube channels. I know I'm bringing this up a lot, but nothing will change really from the result of this election. There definitely will be some things, but if you are privileged enough to have a device, and if you're privileged enough to record yourself crying on social media because so-and-so won and so-and-so lost, or if you're privileged enough to even be subscribed to those TikTok channels that show you just how bad your life really will be if someone else wins, then I'm just going to say it right now, you probably can afford something like this, and everything will be just fine. And I also want to say this, this video would be put out the same day. It would be put out in the exact same tone of voice if Kamala Harris won. Again, I'm going to take my bias completely out of this video, and I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, and I'm on social media a lot, and I've also found myself falling down this rabbit hole of, oh, what if this person won? What if this policy was instilled on the American people? Then would my life be so bad? And the answer is no, because anyone who is mature enough to watch this video and really digest what I'm saying to you, you've lived through much worse. You've lived through worse economic and political climates. You've lived through many higher tensions. And I truly believe in the will of the American people. Now, with Hurricane Helene, I was actually personally affected by this hurricane because I do live in one of the affected states beneath, hint, hint. But I truly believe in the will and the prosperity of the American people. Now, there are plenty of both right-wing and left-wing content creators that have said a message like this, and it makes me happy every time I hear it. I believe that if the American people voted for a president that they truly believe was wrong, regardless of their political standing, regardless of if they're left-leaning, right-leaning, or if they're in the center, I truly believe that if the American people come together and if they realize that this was a mistake, or if they didn't vote for the right person, or if this policy is just bad, then we will find a way to move forward. We'll find a way to fix what was wrong, and we'll find a way to prevail. We as Americans have been the strongest and most just over-encompassing community and country in the history of the world for hundreds and hundreds of years. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Donald Trump getting elected is going to destroy the United States. I don't think Kamala Harris getting elected would destroy the United States either, because I, again, believe in the will of the American people. And that's really all I had to say. It makes me very upset to see how many people are just shutting off their friends and family over this election because they disagree with one point or another. And I am a big disagreeer of that. I think that we should just be accepting and appreciative of our differences, because you never know. One of your best friends could be a Democrat and you could be a Republican, and they could you could learn so much from them and they could learn so much from you. And that should be our ultimate goal, is to learn more about each other, because we matter. We matter, and we are truly all equal. And that's what I wanted to say. Hopefully I wasn't too controversial. Hopefully I didn't say anything that triggers a specific audience, because again, that's not my goal. I want to stay completely neutral on these things, and I will only be talking about politics, if you can even call it that, when something like this happens, where a result of a vote or a result of a policy gets pushed through and people just seem divided. And I want to make sure that my audience isn't falling to that trap. I want to make sure no one's falling to that trap, because it sucks. It's an emotional and physical burden that I wouldn't wish on even my worst enemy. And it makes me very upset that as a country, and as a very strong and powerful and rich country, we have fallen so far. We've let one presidential election determine if we're going to wake up in the same bed as our spouse or not, which is a terrible thing to think about if we're being completely honest. And that's all I want to say. So stay safe.